Page Punchers! How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Brad, the DC Universe Geek. Today I want to share with you something very interesting. The latest wave of 7-inch McFarlane Toys Page Punchers, Batman fighting the Frozen. Now, this is a wave that really came out of nowhere. I mean, we knew it was coming, but it's not really based on any existing anything except for the comic book that comes in the package with each figure, which, by the way, is a bubble packaging, which I really enjoy because it's really clear to see everything on the inside, and this is actually easier for me to recycle. And while I am remarking on the package, I figured this is also an interesting change to how McFarlane handles his 7-inch Page Punchers, where the trading card and the figure stand and the comic book, they're actually packed into the back of the packaging. No longer do you find the comic book in like a little bag, but it actually has a protective sheathing, which is part of the packaging. And everything is just a lot better protected. The card does not come in a little taped enclosed baggie, and nor does the stand. Now, because these are page punchers, of course, these are each going to come with a comic book, and yes, it is the same comic on the inside of every single package. Each of the figures out of the packaging is really, really fantastic. I'm really blown away by all these guys. So let's start with Batman. He could be a He-Man figure. He's just so huge. Batman comes with 2 battle axes. They're both very different. One clearly is shaped completely like a bat, while the other one just kind of looks like the top of the bat signal. Moving on to the figure again, dude, this guy's, he's huge and he's fantastic. The sculpt on this Batman is just something that I'm really impressed with. The face sculpt for this Batman, clearly he's wearing a mask made out of some sort of weird prehistoric bat creature, is super well done, and his face is all gnarled like he has absolutely been in many fights. He's got a really neat looking stone chiseled bat emblem hanging right off the chest there, with fur over the shoulders. Very comic book looking, but also incredibly detailed. And you've also got, I just want to point out as well, the threads from his leather bat cowl. Around to the side, we can see his gauntlets, and you still have the theme of the 3 spikes on his gauntlets. This Batman also has something of a prehistoric bat utility belt with another bat emblem right in the middle there, a bunch of fur around the sides. He's got what looks to be throwing knives as opposed to batarangs, and then more sharp chiseled instruments, as well as what looks to be actually some sort of prehistoric batarang. Now, let me turn it this way for you so you can get kind of a better look at it. He's got some interesting leather strapping hanging down the front. The underneath, what he's got underneath there, it's actually like a textured sort of thing you would expect Conan to wear. He's got his big furry bat boots, and it looks to me like he's got maybe shark teeth around the front of that one with a knee pad. On the other one right here, it just appears to be more fur with more strapping holding it on. He's got wrappings for around his feet here. His brown leather cape, which is, in my opinion, probably made out of the same bat flesh that the cowl was made out of, really kind of looks leathery. It's got a leathery texture to it. It's a nice soft rubber. It's got the seam lines down the back. One thing I know that people are going to be wondering at this point too is how articulated this figure is. Well, we can find out just by finding out together. Just wiggling the figure around. The torso has a good amount of articulation up into the chest via a ball joint. Same thing with the waist. Putting these two together will mean you will be able to get him into any number of fantastic poses. The head sculpt clearly will be on a ball peg, and it's typical McFarlane fare for how articulated that head is, while both arms are, of course, up on that rounded hinge like they always are with the socket. That is not a butterfly. I know a lot of people still call it a butterfly. It's not a butterfly joint. It doesn't help with the articulation one bit. This literally just covers up the gap. You've also got a 360 bicep, which is attached in this way via a peg going into the arm, just like that. You've got a crunchy set of double jointed elbows that crunch up nicely, and then a shaped rounded hinge in the wrist there that'll spin 360, give a good amount of articulation. Down here we have the typical McFarlane groin, the way that he does it with, let's find out what he's got for the twisty twist. A little bit, not as much as I would like, but not Not terrible, not good, but not terrible. Double jointed knees, and these crunch up probably as much as any of us would need them to, hindered only by the fur on Batman's boot. And of course, we are going to have his ankle, which I'm guessing it's going to have a pivot like they all do, and the toe articulation with the hinge allowing it to move backwards and forwards. So overall, I think this so far is a great figure. Fantastic first one to muck about with and really see what it's capable of. Now let's move on to Robin, whom I am also incredibly excited about. He comes with his double-ended bow staff and a jagged dagger, a jagger. Overall, I think that this is probably the most interesting design out of the three Bat characters, with the exception that I really do sort of wish that green had have somehow been incorporated into this guy's overall look. I'm not sure how, maybe just a pinch of green, but the figure overall looks really nice. I really like these proportions, and I'm really impressed so far. He's got his wrist guards right here, one on each forearm, a shoulder pauldron for protection. The R has been sewn onto his chest, I guess, you know, as part of his whole armor. He's got a literal Robin skull hanging around his neck. I guess that's to signify that he is Robin if the R doesn't do it. Just like Batman, he also has a utility belt with some sharpened throwing stones, a little textured sash, and some more belt detail. And then on this side, there's actually a nice convenient place for inserting his Jagger, his Jagger dagger. Turning him around and looking at his back, again, more fantastic detail. You got a sash around the back. You have these nice big textured pants. We got the knee pads here for Robin. Nowhere to put his bow staff, which would be kind of neat if there was somewhere that he could stash it away, but alas, there isn't one. The face sculpt for Robin is really neat. This is really well done. The mask is overall really simple, but it's really effective with the big white eyes. The sculpting of the face itself is really, really nice. You got the hair and the mohawk, because he's not actually shaven bald, aside from the hawk, right? There is actually hair there. Just the whole thing looks really well done. Everything obviously has a texture, and every ounce of detail has had its attention paid to it. And as I found previously with this guy mucking about with him, he actually is really well articulated as well. For a McFarlane figure, this guy does a very, very good job of exposing his abs and belly button. One arm, though, as you can tell, is definitely going to have more articulation in all ways in comparison to the other one, and that's because this one's got a shoulder pauldron. We all know that shoulder pauldrons look cool on a figure, but they definitely get in the way of its functionality. So you end up having to, you know, make do with limited functionality in one arm if you want to have the cool look. Of course, we have the bibbity-boppity, round, bobbly-bobbly, pegged head. And down here, of course, yep, that's what he's got. He's got, ooh, how is this? Is this good or isn't this? This sucks. This doesn't really do a lot, but he does have double jointed knees underneath these Aladdin pants. That's all right. I'm sure that could be better, but whoa, look at those calves. I didn't even notice that. Dude's got dad calves. Robin does have rotation, though, here at the knee joint, so there is a bit more articulation than it looks like he has. And, of course, his footsies have that rounded, shaped hinge, pivot, and toe articulation. I bet you his feet stink. And next we have Batgirl, another figure that I really wasn't expecting to like as much as I do, but she's just so well done. And as with the previous two figures, Batman and Robin, I'm really impressed with her design. Like, looking at this Batgirl and the previous figures, I would be into purchasing like all the characters done in like this prehistoric sort of design. And of course this Batgirl comes with some accessories, 2 hatchets. They're different, they're not the same hatchet, so that's nice that they didn't just reuse the parts, and a grappling hook, which admittedly could have used some more paint detail rather than, well, the none that it has. Batgirl's face sculpt looks really nice. She's got this leathery bat mask, which is something fantastic. I would have actually preferred that her hair not been black, just to add a dash of color. Maybe if her long braid here in the back had have been red like a ginger. That's the one color that I feel is missing from this. She should have had a ginger braid, and that's just my opinion. But yeah, I definitely like the face sculpt design and the fact that it doesn't take that much paint applications to make this one look good. She's got a toothy necklace above her bat cape with a nice gold bat on the front there. I'm not really sure what you would call this armor that she has on her chest. She has a really well done midriff area. I think that that's done quite nicely. Her utility belt area with, again, a sash, just like Batman and Robin hanging down, looks really nice with a bat emblem. You have a take on the classic Batgirl side bag sort of purse thing that the old school Batgirl carried around with her. And we have some more weapony things hanging down here with what looks like feathers. This is a Batgirl who clearly wears pants. These look like some sort of Native American, Native Canadian sort of leather made out of bison pants. And she's got interesting fur wrappings around her ankles. And just like Batman, it is neat that she does have the 3 scallops as well on her gauntlets. And her cape, much like Batman's, is a softer rubber that has a leathery texture and feel to it that clearly is probably made out of the same thing that her cowl is made from. And just like the others, she's going to have the same articulation points. You have the one here underneath the torso here. You have the waist articulation, which gives way to a lot of articulation. You have the rounded hinge, you have the bicep 360, you're going to have crunchy elbows that crunch up nicely. She's also got her head, which is on the rounded ball joint. It does okay. It's not super articulated up and down, but it gets the job done. We've also got down here McFarlane's way of doing things. Pretty much nothing as far as the rotation that I can get moving anyway. And then we have double jointed knees as always, with the ankles having the rounded shaped hinge that of course are going to have a pivot and a toe, and that's what you're dealing with. Now I will say though, over the course of making this video, that her ankles are really loose, like unacceptably loose. Like it's hard to get her to stand up without them falling. So that would definitely be something that I don't like about this figure. And it maybe is just mine, but be on the lookout for yours as well to see if her ankles just get really, really loose and like there's just nothing to them. Okay, and now we really should look at the 4th and final figure in this series, Mr. Freeze. You know what this guy kind of reminds me of? I actually see the big dudes from BioShock. What are they called? Big Daddy? And he also kind of looks like he's wearing an undersea diving suit from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And this guy is just super cool and chocked full of awesome detail. He has this neat looking tank on the back here, and I really just want to get a close-up of this because this is such a neat looking fantastic accessory. This is cool. If you're someone who's handy with a paintbrush, just like with this entire wave, I'm sure that you can find ways to gussy this up and make it even better, but it's really neat looking. 3 hoses, bendable hose, you've got the freeze cannon, and it's attached to the backpack, so maybe that's how they get away with making a gun in this series, because I mean, make no mistake, this is very gun-like. And yet, here it is. Aside from the fact that it looks cool, I do kind of wish there was some place to holster this on top of his backpack here. That would be really fantastic if there was some place to put this. When you actually put his backpack on, you can see right here where the hose is supposed to line up with this. It would have been neat if there was like maybe a peg right here in the back that would line up with this little hole right here so that you could just go pop and attached secondarily right here to hold it steady. Those of you who don't mind, you could just super glue it in the back peg and then super glue it here to keep it together, but it is neat that it properly fits and the gun fits nicely in his hand like that, and ta-da, he's ready to start freezing asses and taking names. Very cool looking details though. We've got these great big shiny metal boots. Clearly he's got the insulated suit to keep him cool. Leather strapping that actually kind of looks like leather here. The belt buckle is painted brown. and those of you who are handy with a paintbrush will want to paint that along with some of the details on the various gauges all over the suit here that have not been painted. Remember though, every stroke of the brush costs a penny, at least so they say. You've got these capsules right here on the side, and they're not painted all the way around with the light blue. Again, those of you who are handy with a paintbrush can fill those in. But for a figure that is, again, factory, and I say this, you want to keep the cost down, you want something that's not super expensive, I feel like skimping on some of the paint apps makes sense. Because if we actually all paid what the real price for labor and paint and supplies was for these products, we'd notice they'd be a lot more expensive. The head sculpt for this is really simple, but it works. It's nice. You got the big steel bulbous helmet looking like he's an undersea deep sea diver. I mean, this really to me just looks like a converted, you know, undersea, old school undersea deep sea diving uniform. You know, instead of having just air pumped into it, they're pumping cold air. That to me, that's what this looks like. I will also say, for as much as I do like this head sculpt, I do wish that he had angrier eyes, like he does in the comic book. I mean, he has round eyes too, as you can see here in this source material, but I feel like it would have been more fitting if he had like angry eyes like this. I wonder though, the question that I have currently is, how articulate is this guy? Because I really haven't put him through his paces. His bobbly head is on a ball joint, and oh, I'm not sure if you can see in there. Let's see if I can just move my light a little bit. No, I'm not helping at all. There's a peg in there, and there's a lot of space, so I can understand why this moves so freely. Like, that is actually a lot better articulation than I would expect to get from something this big and bulbous and weird. Of course, let's see, he's got, ooh, I was gonna say he's got the typical McFarlane hinged arm, but he doesn't. I want to pull it out. So you can see the inside here. Let's put this light right down. You can see the inside is a bit different than your usual McFarlane figure. There's no rounded socket piece. It's just right into the hole, just like that. At first I thought he may have some kind of a swivel right here, like a bicep swivel hidden there, but he doesn't. He has the single jointed elbow, and both of these bad boys, I mean, that's okay. Could be better, but that's actually okay. But they also do, and I'm guessing, oh yep, I knew it, they rotate back and forth. That's what these ones do at the elbow. So there's no bicep swivel, but it does rotate at the elbow. We can see that the wrist has a nice big hinge, and even though the hinge is huge, it is hindered a little bit by the gigantic cuffs. With a figure like this, I'm not expecting to get him into a lot of crazy poses though. You've got the waist, which has a complete 360, nothing at all in the torso. Expect nothing from this figure's torso because, well, there isn't any. Down here, yep, that is always pretty much done the same. And what is he? Oh, okay, well, it rotates in quite a bit, but not out. And I really do want to see McFarlane Toys start concentrating on a little bit more outward rotation. Then of course, underneath the knee pad, he's got the single joints. Ain't no room for double joints there, I guess. And I mean, he's a big bulky figure. I understand why that is the way it is. And of course, that's going to rotate as well. So it's not just a knee joint, but it also rotates around like that. And of course, we can see that Mr. Freeze has a gigantic hinge. Ooh. Well, that's probably more articulation than I would get if I was wearing that boot. And then say it with me now, people. Toe articulation. What does he get? Ugh. Whoa. Okay, that's better than I thought it was going to be. That's not bad. Oh, it's tight. Ugh. So for such a big figure, he's actually fairly articulate. So what do I think about all of these figures from McFarlane's Page Punchers fighting the Frozen wave? I actually really like these. This wave blew me away more or less. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I already knew that it was going to be kind of cool, but then getting these guys all out of the package, I was like, wow, this is something new. And what excites me about it is that maybe, just maybe, DC has a mini-series in store, maybe like a 12-issue series with an entire DC Universe cast based off of these characters. So maybe we'll get to see Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, Green Arrow, all in this figure form. That would be super awesome, but I like them. If you find them hanging on the pegs, my opinion is that you grab them because they're definitely going to look rad on your shelf. They're going to look rad on my shelf, and if I saw them hanging in your house, I'd be like, hey, those look rad on your shelf. But anyway, those are my thoughts and opinions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.